Jamal Osman reporting. Well, he's with us now. He is Somali by birth, and we're joined by the film's director, Paul Greengrass, and its star, Tom Hanks. Thank you very much for coming in.
Pleasure.
Jamal, why don't you ask?
Yeah, I mean, as a filmmaker, it was a good watch, quite tense, some terrific scenes, I would say. But as a Somali, I feel you demonized us as Somalis. And since this film is based on a true story, don't you think you have the obligation to represent the subject or the society in question fairly?
Well, you won't be surprised to know I don't accept that. But more to the point, what is interesting is we had in this film, I would say probably about 30 or 40 Somalis who took part in it, including the four young men who played the pirates. And we cast that way precisely because I wanted to have that perspective. Not one of them felt that. And I must take issue with one of your points in your film. You know, I don't agree at all with your analysis that Somali piracy today is fishing communities striking back at overfishing in their waters. That's where it began. And I think if you look at any of the studies done on piracy, any of the reputable studies, and I can point you to probably a dozen or more, they'll all tell the same story. That was what happened in the 80s and the early 90s. Overfishing in Somali waters, toxic waste dumping too, and fishing communities fighting back. But very, very quickly, this became international organized crime, with crime bosses moving in, financing these communities, financing them, entire communities, who then began to reap the rewards of this piracy. So I think, with respect to you, that your assertions are not borne out in fact, and actually are rather romantic ones.
Well, I've seen the film, and it is a sensational watch, no question at all. And I can see an Oscar popping up your way, but you probably don't care at your sort of station.
Unless you have control over this, there's nothing I can do.
But it did strike me, there was only one thing that did, and it was slightly along those lines, was that you had some very good stuff of the disorder in Somalia from which this piracy flows. I just wondered whether if one showed something more of perhaps one of those pirates' lives, the 16-year-old, perhaps, one would have got that sense that this is a desperate place.
Do you not think that was explicitly dealt with in the way that they were portrayed? The way these young Somali actors captured their humanity, their desperation? You were very clear from what they said that they were originally fishermen. Absolutely, that point was made very, very clearly. They made it. You know, you fish in our waters, you don't care about Somalia. All that was very clear. The young boy talks repeatedly about wanting to go home, but it's made clear he's got nothing to go home to.
Well, let me just press Tom, because what's interesting too is that Paul makes the most vivid documentary style. That's where he comes from. And that's why this thing is so real. I mean, I admit to actually crying by the end. The tension is absolutely unbelievable. And by the end of it, you're in absolute agony. You're suffering so much in that.
You make it sound like such a joyful experience going to the movie.
It's not.
It is. No,
I mean, it's a great film to go, but why do you choose to suffer in these parts?
Well, the human details of this are absolutely fascinating, and I'm sort of rather on topic. You know, my conversations with the real Richard Phillips was, there were moments when they were laughing and joking on board the ship. They had conversations about, you Americans, you're no good. We Somalis, we're the best Navy. He had to learn how to tie knots. And I think we bear some of that out, probably more lightly than even Mr. Phillips told me about. But inside that, he was absolutely certain
that he was going to die.
He was going to get shot in the head, particularly by this one tall, big, angry guy who thought he was going to fly off the handle. And, you know, in the course of making the film, there was so much improvisation. There was so much of the actors, our great actors, Barkhad, Faisal, and Mahat, that I did not know what they were saying until I saw the film and could read the subtitles.
Amazing.
And when I saw that, they were speaking in a vernacular that I recognized. There was young Bilal, young Barkhad, who was saying, oh, come on, let's just go home, man. I can't feel my foot anymore. Let's just get out of here. And that, to me, is human behavior that is captured, despite the fact that they are armed pirates that threatened everybody's lives in the course of it.
What I'm wondering is where you can take this documentary genre, which has really brought to life and made feature films so incredibly vivid, where you can take... I'm just thinking about Washington right now. You've got the most unbelievable thing where the place seems to be captured by loonies, Tea Party people. I mean, people are on the edge of sanity, and they could bankrupt the world. That is not an over-exaggeration. They could crash the world. Now, can you imagine yourself cast by Paul as a Tea Party leader, Republican? You're not a natural Tea Party man yourself.
You know, I don't know what the movie would be. I don't know if that's a theme that could be examined in a 2.5-hour film. It's
Overstirred, perhaps.
But you know, there is room for that. For example, Kevin Spacey is doing House of Cards right now. That certainly captures a dysfunction of our nation. I have only seen the pilot episode. I have not binged on House of Cards yet. But I believe that the great thing about working with Paul is even though that we have condensed facts, even though we have taken omitted moments and events that took place in this. The first time I sat down with with Captain Phillips, I said, "Look, despite the fact that I will say things you never said, and do things you didn't do, and might even be in places you weren't, we are going to hew as closely to the thematic truth as possible." And no, I think we did.
Now, you were a great Obama supporter.
I voted for the President of the United States.
Yeah,
I believe in the political reportage that translates as being a great Obama supporter. Yes, I am.
Are you yet disappointed?
Oh, no, not at all. No, I'm not. Oh, I'm disappointed with the direction so much of the country is going, without a doubt. There's things that I completely don't understand.
Do you think you'll get an opening to Iran? You think that might be his China?
This is above my pay grade, my friend. I'm not qualified to be quoted in such a context.
You're going to carry on in this genre. You've got several up your sleeve. What's coming next?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't. I'm in that happy position of...
I thought you were going to do Robert Harris's banking
No, we're
crisis
away from
job.
Robert. We're away from Robert's
Are you?
book, but we've been working on it for a year.
Isn't the nation, the world calling out for a banking crisis movie?
That was it. That was it.
Well, in a way it is it not? Because it's something that the ordinary, customer doesn't really understand the link between what he puts in the bank and what seems to be coming after him in terms of global bankruptcy.
If you can take anything that actually happened, whether it's ripped right out of today's headline or is something that people don't really know about, if you can capture the human behavior that makes it so, that's recognizable to an audience member, then you have a film that's worth seeing and certainly worth making.
Well, Tom Hanks, thank you very, very much for coming in.
Pleasure.
Paul Greengrass too. Thanks. Jamal, thanks.
Thank you, Jamal.
Thanks, Jamal.
Well, that is rather fine. It's that is Channel 4 News, but there's lots more coming tomorrow. We'll be back at 7. See you then.